My postcard today is from one of the most famous and influential pieces of land in history, Runnymede. It was here at Runnymede in Surrey that in 1215, 25 barons and the then Archbishop of Canterbury trudged across this meadow and then forced King John, after 9 days of negotiating, to put his great seal on the Magna Carta, the Great Charter, which gave democracy to the world for the future. You know, 39 states now in the world actually use the Magna Carta and what was written in that as their own basis for political and personal freedom, just as it did the English in 1215. Well, I'm at the other end of Runnymede now. It just shows you how big Runnymede is. The M25 crosses over there. The River Thames is over there. Goodness knows what they're doing over there, but I want to show you a copy of the Magna Carta. Now, I hasten to add, this isn't the one that King John signed, because it'd be worth a lot of money. But I have got in here a replica of the Magna Carta. So important to free us all from tyranny. Meet my Runnymede guide, Richard Williams. Why did they choose Runnymede, the barons? Why did they force King John to come to this particular spot that changed history?
Well, the barons were encamped at Staines in the marketplace. The king was camped at Windsor Castle. Runnymede was a very convenient meadow on which to meet.
Sorry, King John was at Windsor,
that's
and
right.
the barons
were encampment at Staines.
Oh, so what were they doing at Staines?
Well, they were building up their forces at Staines to meet the king here on Runnymede in 1215.
What do you think would have happened if he hadn't have come? Would they have all gone to Windsor and sacked
Well,
it?
of course, they had been chasing him for a very long time, for several months, in fact. So I think he was probably realised that he wasn't ever going to get away with it, and so at some stage he was going to have to confront the barons about Magna Carta.
And what had led up to the Magna Carta? Was he a tyrant that history books tell us that he was? Can we believe that?
I think he probably has had a bad press, but he certainly lost a lot of money. The barons were very, very fed up with keep paying money in taxes, that money was going to wars which were not being won. The wars were being lost, parts of France were being lost. So the barons really wanted to draw up a contract, a charter with the king. This was different. In history, we've had kings drawing up charters to change the rules. Here we had the barons drawing up a charter to change the rules for their purposes. So it was the king really suffering from his own rules and regulations, if you like. They wanted to have more rights. They wanted their lands to be kept. They want not passed on to the crown, and all this sort of thing. So it was a very difficult situation in the 13th century. Money was being lost on these wars.
Now, the Magna Carta is also the source now of a number of constitutions worldwide for countries. And what was it that was so important? What did it contain?
I think it was the first attempt anywhere in the world to give human rights. It's a big thing about human rights these days. The Americans wrote it into their constitution when they were formed in the 18th century. The Indian continent, for example, also used Magna Carta, and you can see memorials here on Runnymede to that effect. So it is a very important site, I think.
You've got not only the Magna Carta memorial, but you've also got one, is it John Kennedy?
Yes, it's the John F. Kennedy Memorial, which was opened in 1965 on land that was given to the American people on which to build this monument.
Do we know what these two little buildings and columns with urns on are?
Well, they're known. Well, the two little buildings, one either side of the road there, are locally known as the Pepper Pots. It's a name that's stuck for years. They were built in 1932, and they're really meant to commemorate the eastern entrance to Runnymede. And Runnymede at this time, of course, was handed over to the National Trust. And
was it called Runnymede? Is that an old Anglo-Saxon name?
It is an old Anglo-Saxon word. We think it comes from two words, rune, R-U-N-E, which is an Anglo-Saxon word meaning council or municipal, and mead, which is a derivation of the word meadow. So we get Runnymede. But the interesting thing is we have no written evidence of it being called Runnymede before the Magna Carta itself was drawn up in 1215. But I'm sure it must have been known as Runnymede to local inhabitants here, because it seemed to be referred to in the Magna Carta as being part of the place where they're going to meet. So it would have been known locally, but never probably written down before.
So the barons were there with all their men?
Yes.
The king
yes.
would have come with his men-at-arms?
Very much so.
And was there any chance that it could have turned into a civil war?
It's difficult to say at this distance. Probably not, because the barons, I don't think, were quite powerful enough for that. But the king, as many people will know, the king wrote to the Pope shortly after he met the barons here at Runnymede and said, look, I've been under so much duress from these barons over the months, and they forced me to give these assurances in this Magna Carta document. Can you please relieve me of these undertakings? And the Pope wrote back in August of 1215 saying, yes, that's all right. If you say that's the case, then we can nullify the Magna Carta. So that was only really the first attempt at getting a Magna Carta. It didn't really come in as a statute law until the coronation of Edward I in 1296. Right. That was the first time there was something like this on the statute books. So this was really the beginning of it, not necessarily the end result of it.
When these 5 days had finished, did they go and have a big party somewhere? Someone said they went to Hounslow. Is that true?
I'm not sure about that.
Well,
I don't know.
I have it on good authority from Andrea Cameron, who is very, very experienced and knowledgeable in that area. Apparently they left here, I think they must have had a bit of a party at Staines, and also went to Hounslow. So
Yes. Well, they probably would never have passed up the opportunity of a celebration, put it that way.
King John is here, one of the barons is here. Should he really be here? Should he actually be on on Runnymede? He's in Egham.
He's in Egham.
Yeah.
This is about the nearest place that we can really put a monument, I think, to King John. If it was down on Runnymede, it would probably be more appropriate. But this is to remind people when they visit Egham that if they go just across the road here onto the meadow of Runnymede, they can go to a historic site where Magna Carta was sealed all those years ago. And this, I think, is a reminder that King John had associations with Egham.
Well, I'm glad that King John is here. I've got to be honest with you, there's something I quite like about King John. I don't know why, but there it is. But I also happen to like this whole statue, this whole monument. I actually think it's very tasteful. I think it says it all.
Yeah.